Hello and thank you for joining today, wherever you may be. My name's Chris Elliott and I'm joined by my colleague, Roisín McBride. Many of the things myself and Roisín have been doing in the past 12 months is building knowledge, speaking with customers and industry professionals around what we call workforce excellence. And that is what we consider to be learning management, internal communications, employee recognition, and continuous improvement. Now, we've not only taken part in other companies' journeys to building great cultures, but also our own, and that's been quite a large transformation. For many years now, there have been debates over the pros and cons of remote work. I, for one, used to work at a university for several years, and telework and remote work was being challenged then by leading professors and educators as unfit to replace face-to-face contact. And who won the debate? Well, I guess the answer is it doesn't really matter now because here we are. And we have to make decisions. So, what are the opportunities? How can we continue to build great cultures, albeit remotely? A great article I read recently from Fast Company titled Virtual Doesn't Have to Mean Second Best. Your remote team can outrun traditional ones. And they, with their research, they had uncovered that 70% of leaders say their teams do not collaborate on their most important business problems, and they are conflict avoidant. Their research showed that the teams were probably struggling anyway. It's just that the remote aspect of the work has shone a light on it now. The move to remote could make a bad situation worse, unless as leaders we take action and identify opportunities. I want to share with you now a game changer for our organization, and that is one of our solutions, our internal communications app. And I don't want to be flogging our solutions, but just as an example for this one, something that's really been turned on its head overnight is our customers would generally be from frontline workforces, that being food manufacturing, general manufacturing, pharma and medical devices, and so forth. Now, we wouldn't expect the guys working on the factory floor to necessarily download the company's app and interact with it. Say John down in the warehouse probably isn't going to download the company app and go home that night and start interacting with information. In the last few weeks, that has absolutely changed. It's been turned on its head. We now see that interactions from these type of employees has increased significantly. They are looking at company news. They are sharing information such as new job opportunities, particularly in the food manufacturing where they're having to recruit more people. So this has been a huge change. And there are opportunities to connect with this type of employee now, whereas previously there wasn't. And now is the time to explore technology, to get people familiar through training, and Roisín will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So there are three areas that I like to consider where remote can outperform traditional work arrangements, and it's what I call there are more than one F word. And it's fun, it's faster, and frequency. Now, when I say fun, I don't necessarily mean a bag of laughs on chat platforms and that type of thing. I mean fun from an engaging perspective. You can think surveys and other methods. They can still be aligned to important business activity. But the really important thing is that the people that can lead in this way online are the people that you wouldn't normally expect. Many people who seem shy in person are not necessarily shy online. They could be the people that are leading this type of activity online. They could be the people that you need to look out for in your organization because they're generally more tech savvy. And these people help drive a great culture online because they bring a sense of optimism to the table. Now, they're not perhaps normally like that, but this is the new normal. And that's really important because there will be people who struggle with the technology. There will be people who blame the technology. They may blame others for introducing it to the organization. And now is the time that we need to look at new approaches. So keep an eye out for these type of people in your organization. On to faster. You can now reach people much faster than before. And of course, email and chat. Chat's a big one. But it's not just that, it's also some methods. And something that I've learnt recently talking to people in internal communications, they do things like podcasts and videos internally for their teams. Now, people outside of that, of those departments, such as myself, wouldn't normally do that. Wouldn't normally feel comfortable just sending a random video to everyone in your team. But now is the time that you can do that, and it's so much faster. Recently, I had to give an overview of a webinar that I had attended, and it was at the end of the day. The last thing I wanted to do was type up a long-winded email. I was too tired. It was so much easier to just get my webcam on and record it. And it was a lot more fun too. People enjoyed it. They wind me up a little bit in some comments, and that's fun. That's okay. But they had seen it, and it took me a minute. So that's much faster. Now, more frequent. You can reach out to people more often. Now, without being irritating, of course, but you could be in a workplace and rarely communicate with some people, whereas now you can. You don't have to wait to communicate. And it doesn't have to be just chat. We can do things like poll surveys where, we can set the expectation they'll be more frequent and that they're only going to help employees. They're not going to test them or anything like that. So previously, some employees may not have accessed company information in their own time, but now they are. And so before I pass on to Roisín, I'll just say, we've lost that face-to-face connection. So the more we get to use technology, the more we get used to it, to the tech version of ourselves, the easier and more normal it will feel. And variety will help here. So I'll pass on to Roisín now, and I'll join you again after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and hello everyone. I'm going to talk through a few points just around how you can really create that great workplace culture when you are working from home. And the first point I want to talk about is it's time to truly embrace an open door policy. The traditional open door policy, it's one that we've heard 100 times over, and in most cases, it's said and it's rarely actually done. There are quite a few barriers in the way of a true open door policy. One of them in a traditional office environment is frontline employees just don't always feel comfortable stepping into the senior manager's office. Or in cases of remote workers, they just see this policy as unrealistic as they're off-site, maybe they're on the road, and in some cases, they might not even be in the same country. There are tools there like email, but this tool seems kind of unfriendly, and it can be very official and it's perceived as very formal. But with new remote technology, there's a massive opportunity to truly create that open door policy, even when everyone isn't in the same place at the same time. We can really utilize internal communications tools such as chat and video calling and even feedback surveys. So it's really important not to leave your remote employees outside of the communication loop when you are trying to really create a great workplace culture. What you can do is set aside some time to hold video conferences with your remote teams, or have scheduled time available a few times a week to check in with those who are working remotely. This gives them the chance to share any news or any concerns that they might have. You can also let them set some goals and objectives, whether these are work-related or personal, and then check in with them on their progress and their achievements, and then provide them with feedback too. So creating this positive culture, it starts from the top, and taking that time to talk to all the employees at every level, it is important. Now, my second point here is expanding the delivery of your learning content. So while employees are working remotely, they still need to be kept up to date with the latest technology and the latest processes and all the latest skills. So you can develop e-learning content and make that content accessible for all of your employees so that they can learn and they can still develop while they are working from home. So a good example here is one of our clients, FISA. What they have done is they have made the decision to offer all of their courses to all of their employees. So this means that you have access not just to the training that's specific for your job role, but to all of the training that's available. So their employees can actually do any training that interests them, and this is a game changer because people are looking for opportunities to upskill constantly and now more than ever. So it allows your employees to have that upskill opportunity, and then it also allows you to grow your talent pools, and you might even discover some new opportunities for succession within your workforce that you didn't know were already there. Now, it's not just corporate or office-based employees that should have this opportunity. It should be employees at every level. They should all have the opportunity to upskill themselves within the business. What this does is it engages your workforce and it gives them that same interactive learning and development experience. Now, don't just stop by creating e-learning and giving all of your employees access, but also develop some educational content and some resources that can help remote workers with frequently asked questions. So when you're working from home, you don't have the opportunity to get up and walk to someone else's desk and ask them any questions that you might have and get that answer there instantly. So you should develop some resources such as an FAQ to give them the information that they need to be able to answer the questions, and make sure that that information is there at hand for them. My next point here is continuous improvement has arrived in your living room. So you might be thinking, how does a bottom-up approach work in a remote setup? So our leadership teams and our leadership groups need to address the new issues that we face from a remote working environment. And the best way to do this is to allow those who truly experience this environment every day to submit their ideas for continuous improvement. So your employees that are on the front line, whether that front line is still working in the office, on the factory floor, or even if it's now from their own home, they're the ones who do the job day in and day out, and they know what's working and what's not. So by allowing these employees to submit their ideas, you're going to gain access to solutions that you didn't even know were available to you. And you can even get solutions to issues that you didn't even know that you had in the first place. Recently, we have started our own TV series, and it's called The Workforce Excellence Show. In the first episode, we interviewed Frank Devine. Frank is the creator of the rapid mass engagement process, and Frank has worked with many companies globally, including Coca-Cola, Boston Scientific, and Johnson & Johnson, just to name a few. So in this interview with Frank, he actually referenced how the bottom-up approach works. And it's the employees themselves saying, these are the things that are stopping us from achieving great things. And these are the things that frustrate us, and what kind of culture do we need to remove those immediate obstacles? So now, more than ever, we need to create a culture of continuous improvement, that open culture, and listen to what our employees have to say. As there are more obstacles in the way now, and more new obstacles that we're facing now that we're working from home. So my next point here is health and safety. So it won't be much of a culture for us if we all have sore backs. Now, health and safety has been a huge topic in HR departments when it comes to the debate about working remotely for a long time, and the recent remote transition happened so rapidly that ensuring employees have a proper setup hasn't really been addressed. Now, we've been hearing of some large companies, some very large companies actually, who have not had a chance to address the working conditions yet for employees who are working from their own homes. Now, health and safety, it's responsibility of both the employees and the employer, and everyone needs to work together. But there are some things as leaders that we can do. So resources should be available to support both the physical and the mental well-being of your remote workers. Of course, ergonomics needs to be addressed. Ideally, employees should be provided with or have an ergonomic chair and a proper desk to support their physical well-being and a reliable internet connection so that they have the tools there to do their job effectively. Now, there should also be some guidelines as to how employees set up their workspaces, for example, in an office or a separate room to their living area, so they can still feel like they have that work-life balance when they step away from their computer at the end of the day. This will support their mental well-being. Now, make sure that some resources are available to employees just to remind them to take their breaks, to get up and walk around, to step away from the screen for a few minutes. And most importantly here for remote workers is keep connected. Keep connected with your remote workforce, check in, stay social and stay engaged. By checking in and having like these team video sessions and the right tools in place to allow your employees to collaborate together when they're working remotely, it's extremely beneficial to both your culture and your employees' mental well-being. So that's everything on all the points that I have, and I'm just going to pass you back over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Roisín. So that wraps up our session today. Please reach out. You can see our details there on the screen. If you have any questions at all, I'll be happy to answer them. As Roisín said, there is the new Workforce Excellence show, and the next episode will include a discussion with two major global organisations from a HR perspective. So thanks again for joining, and all the best. Goodbye.